Kia ora koutou, and welcome to this online art bite. I'm Rebecca Ogle and I'm the guide coordinator at Christchurch Art Gallery Te Puna o Waifetu. I'm going to talk about a screen print by Eileen Mayo, which I absolutely love, titled A Garden Enclosed. It was made in 1980 and purchased for the gallery's collection in 2005. It's a work which depicts a glass house filled with tropical plants on a wintry day. But during the current lockdown, I now see it as a safe, warm bubble. The plants inside protected from the world outside. Eileen Mayo was a 20th century British artist who grew up and studied in England. She established a career for herself as a designer, printmaker, book illustrator and teacher. She settled in Christchurch in the 1960s and taught at Canterbury's School of Fine Art from 1967 to 1972. Then she continued to live the rest of her life here. The work of Eileen Mayo breaks down the barriers that divide the fine arts and applied arts, for it belongs in both categories. Her work is represented in many private and public collections, including many New Zealand art galleries, the Tate Gallery and V&A Museum in London. Christchurch Art Gallery first acquired 4 early wood engravings by the artist in 1972. We currently have 38 works of hers in our collection. When Mayo made this work in 1980, she was living in Christchurch, aged 74 years old, and she had retired from her teaching position at the University of Canterbury School of Fine Arts in 1972, aged 66. She had already lived here for 15 years and apparently had the idea for this print in the late 60s after moving here. A few years before making this screen print, Mayo completed her famous commission for Greg's Jelly to produce a series of 35 paintings of rare and endangered native New Zealand birds to be reproduced as collector cards for Greg's Jelly crystal packets. We hold 18 of those beautiful original gouache paintings of New Zealand native birds in the gallery's collection. This delightful screen print depicts Cunningham House at the Christchurch Botanic Gardens. The building was funded by a bequest made by Mr. Cunningham, a Christchurch law clerk who died in 1915. Cunningham House is a heritage building in the style of an English orangery or exhibition glass house, originally called a winter garden. It is neoclassical, like the Robert McDougall Art Gallery nearby, and it was designed by local architects Collins and Harmon. Eileen Mayo has emphasised the building's symmetrical design, a common characteristic of neoclassical architecture. Cunningham House opened in 1923, and it's the largest and oldest of the Botanic Gardens display houses. Many of the plants are identifiable in Mayo's screen print. For example, the Kentia palms, poinsettia and cyclamen. Now take a look outside the glass house in Mayo's screen print. She has included a landscape setting of the gardens, a path leading us through the frosty ground, a wintry sky and bare deciduous trees. Mayo gives the glass house importance by placing it in the centre of the composition, and she creates balance by placing trees either side. The subject matter is stylised and modern with its simplified forms. The geometric architectural elements contrast the organic plant forms, and Mayo also contrasts the warm glass house by setting it against a cold background. I've always loved visiting Cunningham House. The heat, humidity, and exotic plants, especially the impressive banana palm. It's a lovely escape to another world, especially on a cold winter's day. Mayo's last works were silk screen prints, a medium which she found the easiest to use, with her hands crippled with arthritis. A garden enclosed was printed as an edition of 25. Each finished print was built up with about 8 screens, each with a different part of the image and each with a different colour. First pale blue, then light green, dark red, pinkish red, mushroom brown, brownish black, then finally white. This layering process takes technical skill, and Mayo was a trained expert. Mayo played an important role in the development of printmaking in New Zealand from the 1960s to the early 1980s. This was finally acknowledged on the 1st of January 1994, when 3 days before her death, aged 88 years, she was made a dame for her services to art and design in New Zealand. Kia ora koutou katoa. Thanks for listening and keep well in your bubble.